the public can.
Oh, good. But we didn't turn that thing on.
It's off.
You would.
Make your motion. Well, actually, you would have made the motion in executive session, so you're okay. No,
Should the roof up?
the new ordinance says it starts meeting as long as it's within an hour.
Carl, you have with this thing.
They went to sleep.
Okay, I've had a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Talbot, second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's now 5:52. We are out of executive session into regular session.
Roll call, we go. We need to open mic so we can, be like just president, say something brilliant.
Nobody stayed in the waiting room on here, so.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's like.
So we'll just,
It's just
whoever signs in, will just come in.
I don't even know what the solution is here.
Go get the chief too, man.
Kelly, you're with us again, are you, kid?
Of course.
I thought you wanted this thing so you didn't have to come.
Accessibility,
You just love being here, don't you?
I do.
Looks like it's working.
Yeah.
Okay,
Peek
we
around
are,
here if you want.
we are back in regular session. There wasn't anything that required a vote in the executive session, so no voting. Gentlemen, ladies, you have before you minutes for town council meeting October 12, 2022. And town motion to accept.
So moved.
Second, are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Being none, all in favor of passing the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved, chief.
Everyone in our report there. The only thing new that we moving forward with is we've decided to hire for a part-time admin assistant, and we have interviews set up for Wednesday of next week.
Anybody have any questions of the chief?
Not looking for any more officers at this time.
We're still looking.
Still looking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be posted until filled.
Yep. Okay. Town manager.
Evening, Mayor and Council, just a couple things. The electronic hydrant flushers are all in and operational. Roger tried one and they're working fine, and the cost of those were covered by the bond bill. The Christmas parade, we've received a lot of entries, and it's going to be bigger this year than last year. It's going to be very big. And thank you to Councilwoman D. Jones for all her work with the parade on that as well. The VFW Enhancement Center is on hold per Commander Trapp because they need to form a 501c3 because of the houses that are going behind the center will now be Section 8 housing. So they have to kind of regroup and get some things done before they proceed. I had a Zoom meeting about the CDBG program, which gives grants to homeowners that need major repairs done to their homes. I've got a couple homes in town I think would benefit from the program, so I'm reaching out to those homeowners to discuss the application process. The chief and I attended a kickoff meeting with DelDOT at the VFW last week for a traffic program they're working on for Bridgeville and Greenwood. And I did inquire about crosswalks, especially here on Market Street, and they said that does fall under this program. So I'm going to follow up with getting some crosswalks. The new Public Works building is up, the concrete's poured. Again, that was purchased through bond bill grant from Representative Vanderwin. And we will store the weather-related equipment such as snow plows, blades, ice melts, such as that in there. Railroad renovations are just about complete. They started on the roof today. The old chimney's removed, and they'll do the indoor repairs that need to be done. That was paid for by a grant from Sussex County. And then the last thing, at the next meeting, I would like you guys to think about some projects or ideas that you would like to have done in the town next year, so I can try to find funding and grant for those projects if I can. So I'll put it on the agenda next month to discuss like project goals. So that's all I have.
Water tower's done.
Yes, sir. And
Any other
we put the
questions?
word Greenwood on both sides this time.
Question?
How are we going along with that Milford housing project that they're behind?
They submitted another set of plans today. Our engineers looked at them. There's gonna be some more things they need to get, and then they should be ready to proceed. They're waiting on, septic, from the county, some plans from the county, and soil conservation, some of the stormwater pond things they're working on. But they're getting close.
About the access to the buildings.
What buildings? Milford Housing?
Yeah.
What do you mean? What about
Do they need
that?
extra roads there or extra entrance?
Just what they had on the original plans.
Okay.
Yeah, they haven't changed anything there.
I didn't know if they changed it.
Mm-mm.
Anything else? Okay, old business, second reading of ordinance C5A. This ordinance repeals and replaces C5 to update the town of Greenwood's regulations on absentee ballot procedures. These updates being the town's regulation in compliance with the recent changes in Delaware State Code 15, Delaware C 7570 regarding absentee ballot requirements in all municipal elections. Okay, do I have a motion to accept C5A?
So moved.
Mr. Colbert, do I have a second? Second, Ms. Jones. Are there any questions referencing?
I have a question, because I didn't write this ordinance, Janet probably knows. This isn't the absentee ballot provision that was just struck down by
No,
the Supreme Court. Okay,
This
just
is,
wanted to verify that.
we had an older version and we wanted to update it to be current with the state of Delaware. So that's
Correct. I just didn't know, there were some provisions
right.
regarding absentee voting that the Delaware Supreme Court struck down. I didn't know if it had, if
Yeah.
it was that, you wouldn't want it to be adopted.
Okay, anybody else have a question? Okay, Mr. Colbert, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Moran,
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Decision. Okay, second reading of ordinance C14. Want to hear all of it, so let me read the synopsis. Unless you want to hear it all. This ordinance outlines the procedure for voter registration in elections in the town of Greenwood. These updates bring the town's regulations into compliance with recent changes to the Delaware State Code and eliminates the requirements for dual registration with the state of Delaware Board of Elections. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Moran. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Talbot. Are there any questions on this ordinance? With this ordinance, does the town have, we have our own registered vote in the town, so now what we're doing is we're going with the state's registration, we're doing away with ours, so now if you're registered in the state of Delaware and your citizens down in Greenwood, you can vote, you don't have to come up here and register and whatnot. So. Okay, I have. Good motion. Okay, Mike and Don. Are any other questions? Okay, Ms. Jones, how you vote?
Yes.
Talbot? Yes. Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Motion carried by unanimous decision. Okay, we are on to new business. I mispronounced your name, forgive me.
So can I, Mayor, can I just?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to give you guys a heads up of Janet and I have been working a little bit on this issue since the last meeting. Obviously, there seems to be some conflict between the leagues as to use. And I believe it was Ms. Cates who mentioned there's an agreement with the town of Bridgeville. So I pulled a copy of that, and our current working proposal is to draft an agreement with each league along those lines. The key difference would be that scheduling would be by application and approval of the town. It wouldn't be one league controlling the scheduling. Other than that, pretty much would mirror the Bridgeville agreement. Each league during an approved scheduled period, would be responsible for utility costs and maintenance of the grounds, insurance and indemnification, standard provisions like that. We want to hear what you have to say. I just want to give you the framework that's sort of our working proposal right now.
So, my name is Adam Geller. I'm a retired prosecutor, 25 years down in Sussex County, major crimes. I retired to follow my boys around with baseball. So I feel like I've turned away my retirement, a lot of work, but I saw an opportunity when they approached me to represent the Little League, where it seemed like there was a solution where we could work this all out to the benefit of everyone, including all the travel teams, not just the Ducks, but including them. I think I bring a little bit of perspective when I speak in that I started a travel ball organization, little mom and pop Bagel Bombers. We've got 20 teams. We're the biggest, longest standing Sussex County travel team. It's been around since 2007. I've coached a gazillion games. I started a travel ball organization, so I come with that perspective. I also was on the board of my Little League while my boys were going through the ranks, so I know what it's like there. And I think more importantly, though, to this application is I have a warehouse in Rehoboth that has been used by the Cape High School, by the Little League, and by travel teams. So as a lawyer, I've been concerned about protecting that interest so I can maximize it. I don't charge for it. And my goal is to maximize the use so the most kids can do it. I will tell you that you're very fortunate in Greenwood as someone that's coached against the Woodbridge Little League in Rehoboth, that to me, the pinnacle of sort of our youth sports is the pride we have when we play for our towns. I started my travel ball organization to make my Little League better. I started it to make a feeder system for the Cape Henlopen High School, because while I certainly won some tournaments as travel ball over my years of doing it, there's nothing like playing for the town. And Woodbridge over the years was always one that you could take pride in going through. They always did more with less for the players. I think that this can all be worked out. One thing that I think that I would, I almost asked for questions that we could work this out at the meeting, is through use of my building and through it's always been, so I always had a collaborative basis with my local Little League, that when I had travel teams, and again, we have 20 Bagel Bomber teams that are currently in existence. We've been around I've used Little Leagues back and forth, and we always had a mutual relationship. But I knew throughout that when I would apply for usage, that I ran through the Little League because that was the priority. And I think what you get with that in managing a resource, and really that's what that field is, it's a resource for our community, is that you want long-standing usage. So let's, just a short history lesson that I know going through, but that field wouldn't exist in the town of Greenwood, but for the existence of Little League. It was a donation by Larry Sorrells many years ago for $1 to the town for the purpose of use of a Little League, okay? And whether or not, you know that history or not, the reality is Little League has national accountability. So, when I'm a travel ball coach and when I start an organization, I don't answer to anyone. Okay, that's it. Little League has been around for decades upon decades and has been sued and has had to worry about everything going through. So there's accountability for longstanding use. The danger for micromanaging of Little League and going through is that you have a dedicated group of people that care about kids that are walking that field every day on that usage, and they care about what's going through. And there's some things that are beyond 1 year. So when you go out to that field and you see like the storage facility or the Diamond Tech or the fields, it's long-standing. This travel team has been around for 4 years. Mine's the oldest in the county's been around for 10, but it's never going to do the long-standing relationship with a town that the Little League is going to be. There is enough time for everyone to be on those fields. The concern you have when you have, like if I were the town, I wouldn't want to micromanage the use. I think of it as almost like owning a building that has a restaurant, and then, you want to make sure the food is good and everyone's happy, but you don't want to be in the process where you're ordering the hot dogs, and you're printing up the menus.
It would
and the-
just be scheduling.
But see, and so again, if the town has that ability, I have always felt my travel ball organizations that they understand that the Little League field that generated why the fields exist, that is when you go in and it says Woodbridge Little League, let's be fair to everyone. So if the goal is to maximize the use, if I have a travel ball organization and I run that through right now, you want to have a calendar event, I would expect to call the Woodbridge Little League. The Woodbridge Little League has the ability to post a schedule on their website to have first priority of use. If the Little League, on the Little League fields that generated the donation, that has been there for decades with Diamond Tech and fences and all that materials and long standing, if they don't have priority of use, then you get in the danger of how do you manage it?
On what legal basis are you claiming priority of use? Because the deed doesn't say anything about use.
It's common sense. It's not a legal basis, it's common sense. If you're going to every year do a priority of use to going through, then you don't really, then it's not you can't run a Little League where a travel ball team, and just keep in mind too, the preference that you've given to a travel ball team. Look, this is the route of the travel ball. Any travel ball team is one parent being upset about their playing time from it being two travel teams. So if you're in a town and you're trying to be fair for everyone, like when I got involved in this and all the back and forth of lights being on and all that, does the town want to do in that? I would think that you want to be the good custodian of a resource that if you have dedicated people in a Little League that will manage the use, that you oversee it, that you dictate to the Little League, you shall allow the use, shall, a legal term, shall allow the use if it's non-conflicting and if it is done with safety. Right now, I will tell you, this is the point of view of me that I let my warehouse get used. My understanding is you gave 5 keys out to people that didn't have background checks going through. I would be concerned with that. I got away from doing that. That's the thing that you do when it goes through is if right now liability, if any one of those 5 keys goes up, opens it up, and we had this in Rehoboth, where you had homeless people, you have coaches that haven't gone through background checks. If they do something to a girl in there, if they steal something, the town has, in my mind, been negligent. The thing that gives you a barrier when you manage those resources through, if the town doesn't think so, I will tell you, my resource with my warehouse, I worry about that.
Okay, so
And the thing that helps me safely in mind, is that Little League, I know that everyone has gone through a background check. The insurance for the usage right now going through my application, I know this from travel ball for mine. I've seen one insurance policy that's for one team, not an umbrella policy. I don't know that covers everyone that you've given use for. My use of my building that I allow for everyone going through, and this is the same, when you do a tournament, if you're a travel team and you show up at a tournament, not only do you have to show proof of insurance, every single kid before they take the field has to provide a waiver. The people that are in and out of my building, I make the coaches, and they're coaches from my organization, I make them not only have umbrella insurance, but have insurance and waivers for every kid. Little League, because it's a national organization, understands that. They've been sued more time than anyone, so they're aware of those problems. So there's an internal checks and balances that you don't get to be on a Little League board or coach without a background check.
okay, can I just pose a hypothetical? If the town lets you guys, and I'm just using hypothetical months, you use it from January to June, they use it from July to December. Why would Woodbridge be responsible for something that happens in October when they are the only team using the field? You have no
So,
liability there.
But I'm not talking about liability for Little League, I'm talking about for the town. I'm talking for the
The
town.
town would require that the town be a named insured on any policies of insurance.
Okay, background checks? Have you gotten waivers from all the kids that are in there? Because I will tell you, as a travel.
The
organ-
town isn't running the sports that's occurring on the field. The town is giving a license to a group to do a sporting event, and then it's up to them to conduct that sporting event.
But
That's the
but that-
town, we haven't seen any waivers or background checks or anything from the Little League, so.
But they have, but they.
And we
do.
don't see their insurance. We've got the Ducks insurance. We don't have a copy of Woodbridge's insurance.
But that's, it's-
But that's a mandate of national level Little League.
And the 5 keys, just from the 5 keys, we didn't give them out. Mr. Taylor gave keys to the mayor and he gave keys to the Ducks, I believe. You can ask the
Yeah,
Ducks. but
but-
Matt
The
Taylor
town
gave
didn't give the
everybody.
keys out, so we wouldn't be liable if
And
somebody.
so, and so here's my, just like, I'm just giving you my practical, why, like, I'm here because I believe Little League can run like Rehoboth. Again, I come at it from a travel ball perspective. I always worked well with my Little League going through with their priority. But the concern, if you don't have that, is that you're giving all that control to one entity on a travel ball basis. Are they gonna be there long-term? Are they gonna be here in 5 years? If something needs a fencing, like what is reflected when I go out to that field and I see fences and I see a travel container, as a travel ball, you know, unless you have, whether it's travel ball or Little League, whether you have a long-term relationship, you can't do long-term investments. You know, a travel ball team is not going through. So right now, the facility that the Ducks want to use is based upon the longevity of a Little League that got the donation for the field, that has a better relationship with town people, because it's a town, it's Woodbridge Little League. When you go out there, it's the pride of Greenwood. You know, the Ducks, as good as they may be, is that a town resource? Or can you give the usage to a travel team that may only exist for 2 years and give it a commitment and then still expect someone to invest long-term in
well, it
it?
sounds like are you interested in purchasing the field?
No, I think, this is what I figured, this is to me an easy solution, is a long-term with control. So if the town, or if some, whether it's this travel ball team or any travel ball team comes in, and the Little League needs accountability. So make them put the calendar of events on their website, make them put the application up on the website. You control in an oversight fashion that the Little League shall respond to all applications for use within whatever time you see. That way you don't, and everything's done electronically. And then the priority comes through, and then you manage it at that level going through. So they have a calendar of events. The application runs through, the application has check boxes, criminal background checks, insurance going through. The town dictates that they shall allow use if it meets the expectation.
You're putting a private entity in charge of a public property is what you're doing with that situation. That's my concern.
It's,
That what is
That's how
what is
Little
their
Leagues run
rational
everywhere.
basis for favoring Woodbridge over them or any other group that wants to use the field?
because it's Little League that's been around for decades, and that's how, it's a little,
But it's a Greenwood property. We have the deeds. They have 3 parcels have been deeded to
and
the
it
town of
was,
Greenwood
and it was
without
given
conditions.
to Greenwood for
I
use
have
of
a
the Little
question.
League.
I keep hearing this. And I've researched back to, I've gone back over 50 years, and I'm trying to find where this gentleman gave this to the town of Greenwood for a specific reason of a Little League. And 50 years, because I've checked, I cannot find one word. Do
Would that make a
you
difference?
have it?
Would that
No,
make a
but I'm
difference
just,
for you?
I'm just hearing it and I don't ever remember.
Well, here,
I've been here, my father helped make that deal.
But legally, it wouldn't make a difference unless it's recorded.
So I mean,
But-
I just wanted to know,
but-
answer the
but
question.
Lawrence
I keep hearing
Sorrells-
it, so.
donated that to the town for $1.
And you
for
have
use of it.
that, I'm just asking.
We can, if that makes a
No,
difference.
no, I'm just
to
asking,
anything I
because
said.
it keeps coming up, this young lady brought it up, now you're bringing it up, and like I said, I've been here all my life, and.
Well, let's put it, flip side is that donating land to it, back then, you couldn't, Little Leagues couldn't own property, so that was the mechanism going through. But across this country, donations are made of land to Little League, and that, travel ball teams are not doing that. Okay,
And then I
that's
have
the-
another question, if you can answer this.
Yeah, yeah.
Answer the question. All the years that the Little League has been there, there has never, ever been an issue until this year.
Okay,
All that time, those folks have been here, the Ducks have been here for 4 or 5 years, and there's never, ever been an issue until now. And what I'd like to know is why now? It's never been an issue. No.
from an outsider's perspective, again, and I wouldn't have volunteered for this if I didn't think there was a solution to go through. From what I see, is that this was the first time that a travel ball team preempt the usage of the Little League.
There you go again. I don't remember them ever preempting the Little League. The Little
But they did
League.
this year,
The Little League was
No, they
over in
didn't. The Little League
July,
was over.
And then fall ball started.
and then fall ball started.
Well, then,
and they had a full ball schedule, and all the games that we saw, or I was told, none of the games were even scheduled here. So after July, what was the problem?
I called your town manager and she told me the only night the field was available was Friday night.
Well, your Facebook post on August 9th said all games will be held in Bridgeville and Georgetown. So how was there a conflict in Greenwood?
Because that was the boys' schedule.
This says fall ball.
Was this the first year of fall ball?
Yes,
And on your line, on your schedule, there were no games scheduled in Greenwood, and you're saying it's because the Ducks
I
were
guess
taking
what
up
I'm
the field?
surprised-
yeah, because we played on Tuesday and Wednesday nights.
So it wasn't that you didn't have nights, you wanted the same nights as them. I'm just asking because I don't know. So you wanted the
Because-
same nights as them?
Because when you play fall ball, you know, you don't get as many children because it's also field hockey season, let's be realistic. But if we want our kids to be competitive, we do need to offer it like the other towns are doing.
Well-
So like last year for Woodbridge and my twins, I can tell you, I signed up through Laurel and drove them down there because Woodbridge didn't offer it. And then they were like, well, we don't want our parents to have to do that. So they started their own fall league. But because it was, you know, the girls' first year, the boys had done it before. We ended up combining, you know, with Georgetown stuff. So we don't really get control. It's like each town has a representative at a meeting and then they tell us what nights we can play.
I'm just surprised,
I'm just surprised that this is happening.
you can run a travel ball team and be deferential to your town. And to me, I've always thought that the Little League for the town and the town is together, and I'm just surprised at how it seems adversarial going through that, you know, the Little League is the test of time. There's been so many kids served that why would a town not want to be deferential that makes sure that the Little League who services more kids gets first priority? As a travel ball, no one's done more travel ball than me. That's my
And
expectation.
again, and I don't even keep interrupting. Again, I wasn't aware of the Friday. The only thing you got is Friday. And then Johnny, is that, you said the only time you get Friday? I mean,
I don't set the schedules, but I had a copy of the schedule from Duck. I didn't have the Woodbridge Little League
I mean,
schedule.
did you say the only night available for?
I read her their schedule and emailed it to Matt Taylor. That's all I can do, because I don't know.
Because the travel ball team has.
Submitted their
several
schedule.
years using the field
Right.
during that time.
But what I'm hearing here is you think the Woodbridge kids should take priority over the Duck kids, even though there's Ducks from Greenwood. And then Mr. Sorrells left it for the Little League, not for all kids?
No.
No.
That's what I'm asking you to clarify.
It's a good question, but no. What I'm saying is that the Searles has nothing to do with it, other than it points out that Little League has been around for a long time. And then when you're around for a long time, you can make decisions that are long-standing. You can get lights, you can get travel trailers, you can get donations of land.
You mean like sponsors and support? Is
Well,
that,
you can get some for travel, but trust me, in travel, there's nothing like your town. When I go to the thing, it says Woodbridge Little League on the side. Those are long-standing resources. Travel ball teams, no matter how good these guys are, and I'm sure that they're squared away, the lifespan of a travel organization is not the same as Little League. So long-term investments in things that the town should care about, like a field, are done through Little Leagues. And if you don't want to prioritize long-term investment, then the problem with giving a priority, which is really the status now, to a travel team, is there's a million travel teams.
well, right now, the
Why is it
town,
a priority if they just let them use it for 3 months out of the 12?
Because it's exclusive, like if the Little League, suppose the Little League wanted to have a fall ball, they can.
to me, the town's point is, we're losing sight, the priorities, all kids get to play ball, not, that's,
Here's-
we're losing
you
sight of
know,
it.
talk, and this young lady has talked when you're supposed to be the one that was talking. Now, the gentleman back there, I told him he couldn't talk, so now you answer to this question. Did they ever come to you and say, we need this field, and you said, no way?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, the coach of their fall ball team, their daughter plays on our team. A lot of the fall ball kids are actually practicing with us now because there was very little fall ball turnout. Bobby Smith is the coach of that they reached out for in the fall ball. They asked him to coach the team. He never mentioned it to me that they needed the field because they were practicing in Bridgeville at the Bridgeville softball field.
So I mean, you know, I want you to have yours, and I understand what you're saying, but you're saying that everything is based around the little league, you know, and I understand that.
No, but it's, if you give control to a travel
We're not
team,
giving control
But
to
you have.
anybody.
but you have,
We didn't intend to give control to anybody. It's like the gentleman said,
but
Here's the thing. I'm glad that you had a great relationship with Rehoboth Little League, and that's awesome. Unfortunately, it wasn't the same here. We have poor communication with Matt Taylor. You couldn't get up with him. Nobody can get a hold of him. I can show you the text messages where we've all texted several times. Hold on.
Do you want
But
to,
see-
you're gonna get a chance to talk too.
But see,
Okay.
like, and I met Mr. Uber briefly and his message, and I think it's one that I agree that the town should care about, is if someone is making reasonable applications to whoever is controlling the resource, and they're not being responsive, there needs to be accountability. And to me, that's where, you know, having the resource, the town would step in. The problem that I saw when I stepped into this is all this back and forth with lights on and who texts people this. Like, I immediately came in and goes, I don't care. I want them to use it. And I wouldn't think the town would want to be in that business. And to me, that's why you set up, I was always one to set up standard procedures where the procedure takes care of everything. That I don't want, so I don't, you know, I don't care about these guys' opinion. I don't care about his. It's what, so you put an application online. It's the same for everyone that applies. So there's no favoritism. Suppose one of these kids playing on his team doesn't get playing time and they start the Gooses and they want to use it next year too. Then you're going to have an issue where do you want to be in like who said what? To me, it's real clear. You apply online, that when that gets time stamped, that application makes sure that safety checkpoints are done.
But why should Woodbridge handle the application process and not her?
Because if you do it on a micromanaging thing, the concern would be if there's not a priority, then you're going to be shortchanging long-term investment. So you go out to that field right now, if it weren't for a long-term investment, whether it was the original donation, whether you want to believe it or not, at some point go through, there's lights, they didn't pay for the lights, there's fencing, they didn't pay for the fencing. There's all these things that have done over time that Little League, because it's been around since the 50s, because it's a community resource, it's not a competitive resource with the travel you get. So if you leave it to that every year, you're disincentivizing long-term investment in the facility. Because you are saying every year it's a free-for-all, that you apply to us and we're gonna go through. And then the problem for a Little League is right now, like the rocks that need to be done around that, you know, is that gonna be part of it? To me, it's very easy, is that if the town is in oversight, right now, we wouldn't have to get back and forth of who said what, or if it was a bad Little League, he would have had his online application completed. He would have an email when it was sent, and he would have a lack of response of use. And then the town would dictate to the Little League, you shall allow its use when non-conflicting. You would see the application,
But then you could deny every use because it conflicts. You could set up.
but that would mean it would have to be used. That means when he would come in and say that we can't get in there, you could come in and the Little League would have to justify another use. So if they were denying it arbitrarily, which I sat at this meeting and there was like, despite there being like things going back and forth, when I went to the Woodbridge Little League meeting, everyone wanted their team to use it. I don't know how everyone wants his team to use it. They want as many kids can be used as possible. But you got to realize that if you give it first priority, you're making a decision of priority use. Like you can't.
But you could say that you guys have had first priority for the season that you use it. right? I
But
mean,
that's Isn't
Isn't
it's
it
Little League.
equitable for the town as a public entity to be able to let multiple leagues use a public field?
You should, and the problem is, if you're gonna leave it up there, who's gonna do long-term investment? Right now, he wants to use it because of the long-term investment of Little League. Because they're gonna be around a lot longer than the Ducks. If you wanna take my money right now, I'll put every cent I have that Little League will long be in existence when the Ducks are been and gone.
So, at the- excuse me, the end of the day, and what I'm saying, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just saying, the end of the day, this whole thing is who controls the field. If you want sole control of the
Not
field,
sole.
that's
Not
that's
sold.
what you're saying. If
Priority.
he wants to go and play ball, he's gotta go to you, and he's gotta submit a paper to you. And then it's gotta go before your board, and your board says, okay. Is this not,
Well, that's
If
the
it's
only
based
way,
on this
that's the
paper
only way
right
our
here.
insurance covers.
But I will tell you, that's how it works everywhere else
But
in
that's
the
not
county.
consistent with with a public property.
It
in my
is in
opinion.
every other Little League that I've used. I use Milton, like my travel ball team has used Milton Little League, Lewis Little League, and Rehoboth Little
And
League
you
for
control
20
access
years.
for other leagues on those fields.
20 years. My Bombers team has used Milton, Rehoboth, and for 20 years and never had an issue with going through. I asked the Little League if I could go in, and if they're not using it, they're generous about doing it. That's the norm. There is no Little League field in this county that is run by a travel ball team that gets priority.
nor
I
is
don't
this
think,
one.
I don't think they.
But
were.
that's what you've done.
I beg your pardon?
You've given priority to a travel ball team over Little League.
We didn't even know that the girls softball team, winter team was even in existence,
But that-
never had a clue.
But that's
Now all of a
why,
sudden it's our fault.
I'm not saying it's anyone's fault.
Are you saying that we give those preference over our girls and we didn't even know they had a ball?
But this is, but part of this is the Little League's fault, where we can fix the problem that the Little League should do better about having an online schedule, an online application process, and email. So it's not your fault. I'm not blaming the town. The Little League could have done better, but to me, that's the oversight that the town is now saying, if you want priority, this is what we expect when you run it. One is you shall give usage when you're not using it. You're gonna publish your schedule in advance going through. You're gonna make an online application that's
Well, it
readily.
seems to me more time consuming to police what Woodbridge is doing than for the town to do it directly if it's just
You
scheduling.
think so? Because right now, what I see is when the Little League is out there going through and managing it, and I'm coaching a team and I'm there every day on boots on the ground, and I think something fence needs to be done, you're gonna duplicate those man hours are going through. You're gonna have secretaries of the town contact the scheduling, and then the problem you have is if the town manages it and without a long-term basis, how can you come to the Little League and say, like, the rocks need to be done or a long-term investment when they don't know if they even get to use the field next month? Who's gonna invest whether it's Little League or anyone, who would you want to be the long-term guardian of that? A travel ball team or a Little League?
So now we're talking about it's travel ball versus Little League.
It shouldn't be, it
I
shouldn't
mean,
be.
that's what you're saying.
And that, I'm saying.
It shouldn't be, the kids should be the
Well, Mr. Mayor,
priority.
I'd suggest, well, first you need to hear from the Ducks, they're on the agenda too, but I'd suggest everybody, we're gonna continue working on this proposed license agreement. Everybody look at that and see how they feel about it. Obviously, the scheduling thing seems like you're at loggerheads, but.
Well, but just so you know.
Closing.
And just in closing, look, I see an easy solution to this. The Ducks would have full usage for it. They would have their application in. It would be better than it was. No one, the town is not to blame. The Little League could have done better. They should have had their schedule online. They should have had an application online. And some of the things would be better going through is that the Little League is used to doing the type of safety checks that you guys might not be aware of. So background checks, the concerns with how travel ball tournaments are done, they're more experts in managing those things. So if you guys gave use to the Ducks or some other organization and they host a travel thing, like the town's now gonna absorb the liability for every team that comes into town.
I mean, and another hypothetical question with all this, with the Little League and all that. Tomorrow morning, nobody's on that field. Nobody. They aren't, you aren't.
Right.
I want to go over there with my grandson and play ball. I can't do that. I gotta go ask you.
No, that's not true.
Well,
That is true, they have locks on the gates.
they got the gate locked, I gotta go to her and say, listen, have you got any plans Tuesday? And she said, well, let me go, wait till the executive
I will
session,
tell-
and you gotta have insurance, Mr. Donovan, and you know, and you gotta have a background, Mr. Donovan.
Look,
I mean, this
I
is
will
kind
tell
of
you.
absurd, I'm saying. what I'm saying
I will
is
tell you,
absurd.
you're right, you're absolutely right, you know how it works, and this is how it's worked in my experience, is that when I applied for use with my travel teams with Milton, Lewis, or Rehoboth, they made sure I had my ducks in a row. So I applied my umbrella policy, I gave them my waivers, and I gave them my insurance, and then I had a good relationship with it. I would call up my Little League president, and I'd say, hey, I want to use the field. The problem with locks and Little League, that's everywhere now, because unfortunately, like, things get torn up and going through. It's less about Little League versus them versus, you know, how you guys want to keep resources safe. Unfortunately, parks get locked up. And if you said, again, you would manage it and have oversight. If you said that as part of us letting Little League run it, we never want to have it locked, then that's how it would be.
Okay, so
It's locked at your request.
and it's locked at my request, and let me explain why it's locked at my request. Because Matt Taylor came to me and he said there's some issues that were happening over. Never been a lock on it, never, in the history of that ball field, never. Issues were going on over there, and we know what they were. Matt Taylor came to me and said, Donnie, he said, we're getting ready to start Little League. I said, because we're starting Little League within the next 3 or 4 weeks here, let's lock that, because we don't want our kids going in there and seeing this. That's the reason for the lock. It's not that Mayor Donovan said, go lock that field.
We're not,
That's the but what, that's all I'm hearing. I'm the one that told you to go lock that field, and the reason I told you was for those reasons.
but here's the thing.
Not for no other reason.
The Little League is not asking for control. Again, it's saying that we have deference going through, that if you don't give deference to a long-term tenant, you lose track of long-term investment. And again, you could at any point in time in the lease that's drawn up, say if the Little League is not managing it properly, if a travel ball organization comes and they show that they've made a good faith attempt to use it, that there's no conflicting use and they don't get it, then you step in and you say, we're not gonna have any more of this, or you run the risk of having a long-term lease.
Which could turn into litigation. If you think we have been running it well and they say you haven't, the town doesn't want to buy that.
I don't understand, I don't.
Okay,
understand.
if you're talking about a lease agreement, which I don't think is advisable.
That's how
If
Bridgeville
they
is,
want to
right?
terminate it,
Isn't Bridgeville set
no,
up that?
it's a license agreement. Which
Okay,
is
a
what we're
license
proposing
agreement.
as well.
Okay, so that
And
means-
terminable at the town's
Yeah,
option at any time.
So
same
she's
thing.
got this thing going, and I don't need to
I
interrupt.
have a
She's got the paper, so what she's gonna do is get the paper and go over and, you know, like you said, you have a major issue with a portion of it, and we'll get back with it. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, I mean, I want to hear from them, but that's what we've been working on. It's
Okay,
a license agreement similar to Bridgeville, but the sticking point apparently is who's the gatekeeper of the scheduling.
So you're gonna get.
I'll send that, yes, I'm gonna, when that is in a good draft, I'm gonna send it to both.
Yeah, so, and again, my long-term pitch, if that is like the critical point when you call license, we're understanding is that if you lose priority to the Little League, again, you're looking at fencing investments, lights investment. Are you gonna go to, you allowed whatever travel ball organization to use it this summer, and you're gonna say we need new lights? Are you gonna say that the gravel needs to be done? If you don't have, whether it's, who would be a better long-term reliable investment tenant than Little League? And if you think it's a travel ball team, that's the decision you're making. Or you're saying, we don't care about the long term.
But if Woodbridge has been in charge up to this point, that's what got us here now. Nobody could work things out. So what's gonna change in the future? It's gonna make everything work out all
Well,
pretty and
but
fancy.
it's pretty and fancy, but you have lights, you have fencing, you have assets.
No, I'm saying what would change between the leagues to make everything work great if it can't work now? What
Well,
would
I think-
change to make that happen?
What
is
I
my
think what
question.
would change is, one, I think that part of it is that this informal communication with lights and everything, if there was if it was understood that the ducks, like a respect that they go through priority, and if it was a system, so that if Woodbridge was not responding, what would change in the future is that they would have filled out an online application, they would have checked all their boxes, they would have emailed for the use, and if they didn't get back to them, they would go to the town, and it would be like, I'm sorry, you guys didn't comply, got your use, and then you would say, we might not do this
So
anymore.
instead of us controlling it, we'd be cleaning up messes.
there
In
wouldn't.
essence, and when you
I-
say
I-
light situation, what does that mean? Can you tell me what light situation means? You mean the lights on the field electric bill? Is that what you're talking about?
But that would, you guys could say, I don't think your insurance is good enough. They'd say, our insurance is good enough. And then it would come to her to referee. That would be
Yeah,
a
but-
terrible situation.
It would, because I will tell you that once it's done, like, we don't have these debates. Like, it goes to, once you set out the thing that the understanding this, every other little league field in the county, that I go to that and I'm reasonable with it, it's not an adversarial situation. I go to every one of the presidents of all the little leagues, I say, are you using the field today? They say, no, go ahead and do it. They've made sure that I've gone through all the checks and balances. It's not adversarial. No one here wants to deny usage when it's not being used. But you can't say, we're gonna potentially exclude you for a whole season, and then, oh, by the way, keep pouring money into it for the long term.
Well, just a question, does Woodbridge have any interest in purchasing the field?
That was brought up at the board meeting.
Okay, I mean, I don't know, and we wouldn't have that discussion here, but I mean, if you want to totally control the field, it seems to me.
We
should
don't
own
want
it.
to totally control.
Stephanie, it's been
not
brought up
control.
by both sides.
Okay.
It's not total control, it's priority of usage. Like, you would still have oversight that if they're not managing it properly, you could come in and say, you denied usage when it should have been, and then you could withdraw the license.
Okay,
Okay, why don't we hear from?
So
and I didn't mean to be here, I didn't mean to be, just.
the whole point of this, reason we've gotten to this place is because of poor communication with Matt Taylor. For the past, it's actually been about 5 or 6 years, I actually coached Little League at Woodbridge Little League Field back in 2012 and 2013. Dave Fernell was president then. Him and I had a great relationship. We cut the grass together. We took care of the fields together. Everything was great. When we brought the Ducks to Greenwood in 2018, and we started practicing on the field, Dave was the president then as well. But trying to figure out why everybody is so upset with us, because we're just out there practicing. We have 5 teams out there, approximately 60, 70 kids are on that field every week from the time Little League ends until it begins. And is that actually getting ready to end now? About 2 weeks from now, I'm gonna be using the field anymore until Little League starts. But I couldn't figure out what I had done to upset these people. When Matt Taylor became president, our very first conversation was a very toxic conversation. I remember the day very clearly. I come home from surgery. He called me up, pretty much told me I wasn't going to use fields ever again. And from that point forward, we got past it. We communicated better. But then as time went on, the communication got less and less and less until my other coaches and I couldn't get a hold of him. So back to me trying to figure out why they're so upset with me. I've learned since all this that there was kids that tried to make our travel ball team that didn't make it. Feelings have been hurt. They're friends of some of these board members. And that's what I come up with. These kids are having to ride to Mardella to play. They're having to ride to Delmar to play, to be on the travel team. When they're riding by here and in the evening and they see the lights on, they see the Ducks out there practicing. I think that hurts the feelings. However, I will say this, we have Woodbridge kids come practice with us. If you don't make our team, we still invite kids to come out and practice. Members of the board were actually out at our practice just this week with their kids. So it's not like we tell them they can't come out there. We still allow them to practice, which a lot of travel teams don't do. The gentleman they're talking about a fall league. The fall league was not even announced until the mayor got involved and had to tell us that we could use the field until from the end of the league till the beginning of the league. When he said that, they tried to set up a fall league to try to have a fight, I guess.
And I'll clarify that to you right while we're there. And I'm hearing this too, and it's the mayor this, the mayor that, the mayor did all this stuff. The mayor had a talk with Mr. Scott.
Yes, sir.
And the conversation between Mr. Scott and I was this. He said, Mayor, is the town of Greenwood gonna kick us off the field? And I said, no, that's all I said. I didn't say, from this day till whenever you got. I never said that, never. All I said is, no, we're not kicking you off the field.
Well, Matt, Mr. Taylor was telling all of us
Well, I don't know
from,
who was
for the
telling me
past
that
3
that's-
years that you were gonna sell the field. The town's gonna sell the field, they're gonna sell the field, we've heard that for 3 years now. They're gonna sell that field, they're gonna turn it into an apartment.
He didn't speak when you spoke, Mayor. They didn't bother interrupt them, so they can't interrupt him.
Okay, go ahead. Rick.
So back to the fall league, when that started, again, one of my parents on my team is the one that coaches that fall league. And they have a field in Bridgeville that they practiced at, and they played against Georgetown Little League. I talked to him about it. They could have used the field anytime, and Mr. Smith knew that. The last time, the month ago we were here, we got kids out here with picket signs saying we're hurting the kids. I mean, that's embarrassing. You know what I mean? To have kids out here, and the signs were obviously drawn up by adults and handed to a kid to hold in the sky. We got 7-year-old kids holding up artwork. I mean, there's no way they drew that stuff. I have emailed the district and the region about this whole incident of Little League, because our name is being drunk into it. We don't want no problem with Little League. We tried to help them. As a matter of fact, when we left our last meeting, we went outside and when we spoke, and Mr. Taylor was upset about the whole situation. And he was talking about, he had $3,000 worth of Diamond-Tex and all this other stuff, but didn't have no way to put it down on the fields. So one of my parents agreed that he would use his equipment to spread the Diamond-Tex on the field for him. They said they wanted to run a camp. We would volunteer. All our coaches volunteered. We would run your camp for you as experienced coaches would run your camp for you, and all the money raised will go to Little League. So we're not against the Little League at all, and we feel like we're being the ones attacked. This is between the Little League and the town. And in defense of the town, they have to get involved when Little League doesn't communicate. So that's.
All right,
Could I just respond? Just quick, look, I'm not gonna, well,
Did you have?
I mean,
something you wanted to say?
what response are you gonna make?
look, I
I
got
mean, he didn't
involved.
respond to anything you said, and I want to be fair about this, but what response do you?
When I got in this as a volunteer to be here, I sat through a Little League meeting. There was absolutely none of any personal animus that they didn't want this team. If they had, I wouldn't be here. They wanted the use of it. So I think the only concern is not like he's making it a personal, and to me, that he's going into all this is why the town should not want to, like, it shouldn't be about this. It should be a procedure. So it's all online, and then not whoever applies for it, that we don't get into all this informal thinking it's going through. If you've got your application in, if it was done in a timely fashion, if there's no other counter use, you shall have the field. But like, I will tell you, I sat through a board meeting and this was not like some personal, they don't like 2 member, they don't want to have it. They need to have some assurance that they have priority of usage after decades of investment.
Okay, do you gentlemen have any questions?
I think, did you want to add something?
Right, I just want
Okay,
to.
sorry, just give.
Yeah,
us a
right,
minute,
I'm
'cause
just-
they spoke.
And don't get into.
No, I just want to say something here. Tim, he doesn't have a kid on his team. He volunteers all of his time to do this with no kid on the team. I've been on the team for 30 years, no kid on the team.
Well, I mean, that's kind of irrelevant here.
No, but I'm just trying to make the point is that this gentleman here is saying, these parents are just gonna split the team and do whatever. He doesn't even have a kid on the team. He's volunteering his time for these kids.
By the way, I don't know are you with Little League?
Yes,
I'm Okay.
Vice President
What was your name?
Ryan Potter.
Ryan Potter, thank you.
Can I just say one thing that's not in this?
One quick thing and we're gonna,
Okay, we are at a point, I'm not on the Little
real
League,
quick.
just so you know, I'm not on the board, but I am a coach and I do advocate for girls quite a bit. And we are at a point, and this is why we appropriated so much money that is supposed to be spent in Greenwood this year. And we can't do that if we are not long-term either tenants with a license agreement like Bridgeville, which Bridgeville is now adding years into it. They're getting ready to revamp that. Because we can't keep spending $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. This year we spent over $80-some thousand.
On this little league field
No,
here?
total.
No, I'm talking about this field here.
This field here has a huge allocation coming starting November 19th.
I didn't, because I'm just.
But we
just
can't do that if we're not gonna know that we can play there. And I do foresee fall ball is gonna be a thing that if you're gonna compete with other towns, you have to start doing.
The Bridgeville agreement is indefinite duration unless or until terminated or revoked by any of the parties to this agreement.
That, the old one, yes, but they already
You have a new one?
contacted us.
Oh, you're
But
working on
they've
a new one.
contacted us
But-
and said that they're
but
willing
that's my
to
point,
put
you'd
a time
agree
period.
that language gives some basis to feel confident that it's usage.
But I believe it says that they can terminate it basically.
And we would be okay, and I'm not advocating anything for that, that you could, of course, it's a town resource, you could put in language that you could terminate at any point, but if there's some basis to believe that that a league is gonna have a priority of use in the following year, then you can make long-term investments. You can't, you can't do it. if you can't use the field.
Understand the long-term investments and so on and so forth. So you're gonna get this and then.
I'm gonna send something to both of them
And let
to look
them,
at and.
and get back with us.
And Mayor, since you let other people speak, you have to, I would ask Kelly if she has
Kelly,
anything to
anything?
say.
I have an opinion about everything, but I'm gonna sit here and say hi.
Okay, anybody else, gentlemen? Any other new business? Okay, I entertain a motion to adjourn at 6:47. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mrs. Jones, do I have a second? Second by Mr. Moran. All in favor, aye? Aye. Pose same sign. 6:48, we are adjourned. Thank you for coming.